on wages, prices, and profits. Now, I know there are some people who say that this isn't any business of the President of the United States.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Moms, One Mic. I'm your host, Nia, and this is my co-host,
Desiree.
And today we are talking about the stigmas of parenthood, negative and positive.
Yep. So I think we both have a lot of experiences and we kind of relate, but also our experiences are so different, which is kind of cool. And let me just tell you guys, like, once we become a parent, like, it's a whole different perspective, a whole different mindset. And I really think it opened the world to, like, the stigmas about being a parent, but also just being a Black mother.
Or a young Black mother. I feel like that's,
right.
You know, you got more on your back, you know, with all of that. You're Black.
You got, like, Black stigmas. You got young parents stigmas.
Right. It's a lot against you. I feel like something that I've experienced personally is, you know, people just assuming that I don't know what I'm doing because, one, this is my first child, and two, that I'm young. But I feel like I have a more mature mentality. Mentality about a lot of things. And I kind of can, you know, I know how to assess situations. I know how to listen to my emotions and listen to my body. And I feel like something that I went through, you know, during the birthing process is people not listening to me about what I feel is wrong with my body. Because in the beginning, I got induced, by the way. I was forced to be induced, which is red flag number one. In that situation, I had a instance where I was getting induced and I was telling the doctors, like, they put the Foley balloon in there to dilate me. And I was telling her, I was like, this doesn't feel right. You know, like, I can feel it, like, kind of falling out of me. Like, it just literally didn't feel right. And I kept expressing that to her. She was like, oh, no, that's just how it's supposed to feel. And, you know, that's fine. That's normal. And, like, how are you going to tell me, like, I know what I'm feeling inside of my body.
Right.
You know, just because you've done this before and you've placed this thing into multiple people, everybody's not the same.
Right.
So I went a whole day in pain, basically, with this thing halfway in me, halfway out of me.
Oh my goodness. And why couldn't they double check on it?
They didn't listen to me. So that whole next day, the next day comes and they check my cervix. I'm back to 0. I'm not dilated at all. And they're like, oh, it's not in correctly. I'm like, we just wasted a whole day in the hospital because you decided not to listen to me about my body. And
you had to suffer at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And put your baby more at risk.
Exactly. And then I also had Hugh's mom and Hugh there to advocate for me. But that was kind of like nothing at the same time as well, because they weren't listening to them or me. We know better. We're the doctors. We're the nurses. We're the doctors. We know this. We know that. And I'm like, this is my body. How are you, you know?
I can definitely relate on that with the assumptions. It's also the assumptions, like, when you're pregnant, too. Because I remember going for my first appointment, ultrasound, everything. I was about 18 weeks. I went to get my ultrasound pretty late. I think I went before 18 weeks, actually. I just remember my first time going to an OB-GYN. Like, I just went in there. Once, like, the lady was nice greeting me. And then once I confirmed my birthday and my age type of thing, complete demeanor changed. She was short with me every time I came back. And ultimately, I ended up leaving that place because I did not like how I was getting treated. I felt like I was being judged. And the thing is, I got pregnant on birth control. So
it was like, I didn't try to do this,
yo. Like, like, I wanted my baby.
Right.
I feel like that's what people really don't understand either. Yeah, we made a choice, but we made a choice to keep our baby. Like, I wanted my baby.
I feel like regardless of what choice we made, whether to keep the baby or, you know,
as long as the baby's being taken care of, or as long as, like, you know, at the end of the day, if you can't support a life, you should make that decision to not carry that life. Like, that's not fair. Or you can
carry it, but not, you know, put it in that position. You maybe give it up for adoption or whatever.
Right.
But I feel like regardless of what decision we make, whether it's to abort a kid, keep a kid, or, you know, set it up for adoption, it's inevitable to be judged about that because, you know, from the outside looking in, people are not knowing what's going on in our lives and what we can handle emotionally, monetarily, you know, any of that. So it's just like, they're going to judge regardless. So it's just really up to us to kind of prove them wrong. Like, I can't do this, or this is the decision that I made for me, and nobody knows what's best for me but me.
Right.
I feel like it's inevitable to be judged as a parent as a whole, not even a young parent, a mom, anything, like a mom.
But that's the thing, like I don't like how they categorize or separate young motherhood or even young parenthood from just parenthood.
Right.
Because it's the same thing. Generations before us had kids at the same ages.
Right.
We're still adults. Like, I mean, yeah, we had our kids early, but we're still learning. Like, as would like a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old having a kid.
And I feel like it's also just based off, the person and their mentality as well, because you can't, that's just like, you don't ever group up like one people. Like, you can't say all women or all men or, stuff like that. It's okay. This mom is nuts.
Right.
But this mom, she has it together.
Right.
She's headstrong. She got her head on. She know what she's doing, and she's going to do whatever it takes to take care of this child. And you just can't put all young moms or, all teen moms in one category, because none of them are one and the same.
I feel like that's parenthood in general.
Yeah.
Because every kid is different as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like one might work for another kid, but the other may not work for them. And I feel like it's also a big difference from compared to young dads to young moms. Like, I go on TikTok and just see a young dad like, oh, well, no one's doing this thing, so it's my turn to do it. And everyone's just praising him for taking care of his child. And not to say like that woman should be taking care of her kid. Understand that. But it's like a whole big difference from like
when it's
a young mom, right?
Single mom, they're like, "Oh, well, why did you have a baby with him? Or you shouldn't have did this,
or you shouldn't have known better, or you could have prevented this."
Yes,
and I'm just like, you never know.
And it is so crazy. Like, from the outside looking in, it's so easy to say these things, but when you're with somebody and sometimes you feel so strongly like about them, and people change dramatically after children. Women and men, they change dramatically. So it's just like, I felt as if though this was the person that I could do this with, or whatever the case may be, but they changed. They can't handle this. This is us growing in life, and they're either not ready to, take that next step, or they don't want it at all.
Right.
They don't want it at all. So it's just, like you said, it all depends on the person. It just all depends on, it's like, you just can't group them. You can't put everybody in that box. I don't like that.
You really can't. Because, I mean, you can be 50 and be the most terrible person on the planet and terrible parent. You can't, because there's people like that.
Right.
But then also you can compare it to say a 20-year-old, and we're not promoting to be young parents. Like, I feel like you should be financially secure. You should have a good support system before you have kids. Mm-hmm. But things like this happen, and you can't just be like, oh, well, they don't happen. You need to wear a condom. You need to do this. You need to do that. People do those things and still get pregnant. Right. And then you're talking about you need to be abstinent. That's not realistic.
I mean, for some people it is. However, we're curious.
I'm saying like people who say, oh, well, to prevent a kid, just be abstinent. But that's not realistic at all. No. Like, that's not realistic.
Not at
Kids
all.
are curious. Kids are going to do it regardless, if you say. And if you put a lot of restrictions on it instead of informing them,
it's going to make them want to do it even more and find out for themselves. I feel like as a parent, I want to be a little more open when it comes to, sex and stuff like that. And like, not hide it from them. No sex.
Right.
Like,
no,
just kind of give them the tools to navigate through that and be like, okay, yeah, I'm saying respect this person's body, and also make sure they respect yours. And you put these certain things in place so that you don't end up like mommy, Not
even like end up like mommy, because things do happen.
Of course.
Like, I got pregnant on birth control. So even like compared to that, like, I just want my daughter to be aware of her body, because honestly, as a woman, our bodies really know what's good for us and what's not.
Yeah.
Like, our body's probably going to tell us before our mind does. So I just want her to be comfortable enough to know she can come to me for anything. Like, I want that open communication, not to just know your business, but I want to know you're safe too.
Because I know as a kid, or like as a young teenager, or whatever the case may be, I was pretty scared to talk, like, be open about sex and stuff like that, because my mom was like, don't end up like mommy, don't have a baby young, but it was never like, this is why you shouldn't do this. And, it was just more like, don't do it, instead of giving me the tools to navigate through that, because it just made me more curious. Not, oh, I want to have a baby, but it's just like, you're not telling me the things that I need to know to be able to get around this. So it just makes me want to do it even more.
I think for me, like, I really wish my mom kind of taught me the emotional part of it.
Yeah.
Rather like the physical, because like I knew about it. I was already educated on that.
Mm-hmm.
But the emotional side is completely different. When you first have sex with someone, it's changed. Like, it's different. And I think also navigating healthy dynamics in relationships, because people can use sex as a way to guilt trip, as a way to get what they want, as a way to manipulate. I feel like if I had a more understanding of that, like, I would just be more aware and conscious of who I'm giving myself to.
Exactly. Because for me, like, that was a whole new playing field for me. I didn't know what was going on. And, like, now that I'm older and I'm looking back at it, I just wish I could hug myself. Like, and, like, sit down with myself and be like, look, this is not it, baby. Like, no, like, this is not it. Trust me.
Like, you can wait some more.
Yeah, like, I really wish I was, like more, like you said, like, I was taught more about the emotional side of things and, how you can get manipulated into doing things, or you can confuse sex with love. Like,
yes. That's a big part. I definitely want to literally ingrain in my daughter, like, hey, just because you have sex with a person does not mean that there's love there.
Right.
Like, and you can easily mistake that for that, especially when a person is telling you they love you.
Right. Especially during that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, don't take it, I would say just take it with a grain of salt, because unless you're married, engaged, that relationship can literally go poof in the air.
You're not tied to this person.
You're not tied to this person. Exactly.
And a kid as well, like, that's not being tied to a person.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not saying, like, people who are just solely dating aren't, connected, but, like, you can, like you said, you can just leave at any time. There's no paperwork or no money or anything that you have to go through to end that or break that situation off. It's just straight up.
It could go away.
Yeah.
And, like, I know there's other relationships out there that don't believe in marriage, but that's, like, long-term partnerships where people know each other and both sides are good with it. They have that communication. But I feel like, for example, if you're telling a person, I want to marry you, I want to have kids with you, I want to do this with you, you get pregnant, and then that kind of just falls apart. Like, I get you can say all those things, but just be mindful, like, literally, that can go away.
This can be over tomorrow.
That can go away because unless they're really committing to you,
like, literally committing, not telling you, like, not verbally, but, like, put it in actions, like, showing you. I feel like that's important. And it's kind of different because you have a daughter and I have a son, so I have to kind of be on, like, the opposite side. Like, okay, you better treat this girl right. And, because girls are manipulative as well.
Yes, that's
so it's
exactly
like,
what
I have to prepare him for that, but I also don't want him to be an F-boy or nothing like that. Just going around and screwing girls and whatever the case may be. Like, you have to respect your body as well, because just because you're having sex with a girl, that's not only, you know what I'm saying, you can be disrespected in that way as well. You can be used, you can be all of these things. And it's just like, just be more mindful about who you give your body to and, who give their body to you, because you could be doing it with the craziest girl ever. She come to my house busting out my windows. Now I gotta fight somebody's child.
Not even that. Imagine she try to baby trap you. Like, that's a reality.
That's real. That's a
reality. Like,
and some people don't actually even be pregnant by that person or pregnant at all.
You know how many stories I've heard about that? It's insane. It's actually insane. And these are from, like, high schoolers. It's actually insane. So I feel like, just making sure, like, kids are aware. That's the biggest part that needs to be ingrained.
I really hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I hope it was informative as well as entertaining. That's all for this episode. I'm Tania.
I'm Desiree.
And this is Two Moms, One Mic.
We'll see you next week. Do the mic drop.
Mic drop.
And